Chairs No Waiting, episode number 676, Mayberry Mountain People. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the folks over at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Drop by over at Weavers and pick up some of the great Mayberry things they have over there. The Mayberry Effect DVD. Now, that is a documentary film about the Mayberry Effect, traveling around and seeing folks at different Mayberry events. Definitely worth watching. Check that out over at Weavers. And while you're there, you might want to check out and get you a Weavers Department Store embroidered hat. That's right. It's getting time for summer. You got to wear hats again. Head over to Weavers Department Store and check it out. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners like you. The executive producer of episode number 676 are Rainey and Jennifer Vinson. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here with me. I am Alan Newsom, the host of Two Chairs No Waiting. And, man, it's always fun to just talk about the Andy Griffith Show and the things around it. And so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to talk about Mayberry Mountain People. And we're also going to do some trivia, and we're going to hear Returning to Mayberry with SpiritWalker. So we got a lot of fun stuff to go on. So starting off, I've been last week, the episode I did last week was about an article that I found in an old issue of the Mayberry Confidential. So I've been looking around, and I almost knocked everything off the desk picking that up. But I've been looking around for different things, but I found this one. It was a condition of the heart that Jim Clark talked about. Go back and listen to last week's episode 675 if you didn't get to hear that. But as I've been looking around, I started thinking about some older things. And so I went and I've been looking through my collection of The Bullet. Now, if you don't know, The Bullet was the official newsletter of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. Now, I say was because the current newsletter is called the E-Bullet because it's electronic only. Back in the day, though, it was a printed out newsletter. Started out, I think, one page. The second one was 4 pages, so front and back. It was, the first one was front. I actually have it right here with me, too. But I had the very first issue and the second issue as well. So the first issue was only the front and back. And then it was followed by the second issue, which doubled in size. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, doubled in size to 4 pages. So it was extra big. So front and back. So I thought this would be fun to look back on because it was actually published. This is the second issue of The Bullet. It was published on March 18th, 1983. So as I record this in just a few days, it would be 39 years ago that this newsletter came out. And I just thought it was kind of fun to look at this and to see what kind of information we might be able to get from it. That was, what was going on 39 years ago in the Mayberry community. So you have to remember that that was, just at the beginning, really, of the Mayberry Rerun Watchers Club stuff. So Jim Clark and his friends there in Nashville had formed the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, and then news started to get out and people started wanting to join, and then he created this newsletter. So this one, it says, I'll just read this just a little bit at the beginning. It talks about the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club keeps on growing. And he's talking about the growth since the last issue, which was in October, which was the very first issue. The growth of the Bullet has really been tremendous. Response has, in fact, been so good that rather than send the first issue into a 5th printing, we have decided to go ahead and put out our second issue. So they printed 5 printings of the first issue, and it was time to move along by March. So this is about 6 months later from when they did it. And the fun part in this one is there's a story in here, thus the name of the podcast tonight, called Mayberry Mountain People by Ken Beck. Now, Jim Clark is the presiding goober of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, but he and Ken Beck wrote the book, The Andy Griffith Show Book, that has been around, plus the Aunt Bee's Cookbook and many other Mayberry-related books. But this article was by Ken Beck. So I thought this would be fun to just listen, read, and talk about because this was, again, 39 years ago. So keep in mind that that's when this was written. But this is what we have to say. So I'm going to play some background music. There we go. As I read this, I'll turn that down a little so it won't be a... Remember the hillbilly folks from Mayberry? Sure you do. How could you ever forget the mountain patriarch Briscoe Darling? Briscoe Darling. His 4 handsome and musically inclined sons, sweet smiling daughter Charlene, and that wild man of the hills, the brick-throwing Ernest T. Bass. Well, where are they now? Remember, this was 39 years ago. Whatever happened to the Mayberry Mountaineers? Here's a little follow-up. Briscoe Darling, alias Denver Pyle, has left the mountains of North Carolina for the flatlands of Hazard County. And now, instead of 4 sons, he's got himself a peck of trouble with 4 nephews and a niece. That's right. He's Uncle Jesse on the Dukes of Hazzard. Of course, between Sheriff Andy Taylor and Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, Denver Pyle passes through a whole parcel of television series between the two. Among his TV credits are Tommy, The Doris Day Show, and The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams. Roscoe P. Coltrane, by the way, is played by James Best, who also portrayed Andy's guitar-playing buddy, Jim Lindsay, on The Andy Griffith Show. Pyle is really from Rocky Mountains of Colorado. He was wounded in World War II off of the Guadalcanal. He then returned to stateside to study drama. His early roles were with Roy Rogers and Gene Autry in their television series. Top film credits of Pyle include Bonnie and Clyde, Five Card Stud, Bandolero, Shenandoah, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Now, for the boys, as Mr. Darling often referred to his 4 fun-loving, warm, and amusing sons. The Darling boys were, in real life, the Dillards. A bluegrass band fresh out of the Ozark Mountains, the quartet left their houses and their hometown of Salem, Missouri, and headed across the country to Hollywood. There were numerous breakdowns along the way, though, and the Dillards had to make a few stops to earn a little traveling money before they reached their final destination. Eventually, they hit the Ash Grove, an L.A. bluegrass club, where the 4 played while an Elektra Records executive sat in the audience. He liked what he heard and soon offered the Dillards a recording contract. At about that same time, the Andy Griffith Show was looking for a bluegrass group to play the Darling Boys. The Dillards auditioned and got the role on the spot. The original Dillards were made up of the brothers Doug and Rodney Dillard and their friends Dean Webb and Mitch Jane. Doug now has his own band, his own bluegrass group, the Doug Dillard Band, while Rodney still leads the Dillards. Dean Webb is still in the group with Rodney, while Mitch Jane returned to Salem to become a writer, and a quite successful one, according to Doug. In fact, in one story, Old Fishhawk, it has been turned into a movie. Doug, meanwhile, has been recording a few albums and has a new one coming out this spring. Rodney has just come out with Earl Scruggs on a single, Sitting on Top of the World. The brothers still jam together occasionally, and they are close friends with John Hartford, another Missouri native, and with ex-Byrd member Gene Clark. Doug Dillard has also been featured in a couple of films lately. He appeared in the Bette Midler's The Rose and in Popeye with Robin Williams as, what else, the banjo player. He also did most of the music of the banjo music in Bonnie and Clyde. The Dillards and Doug's band both work out of Nashville, but both also frequently return to Salem. Doug has fond memories of the Andy Griffith Show and says, being on that show was probably the highlight of my career. He can only recall one line that the brothers ever spoke on the show, And that was Great Beans, Aunt B, after Aunt B had fed the boys in the jail on one occasion. Margaret Ann Maggie Peterson played the darling sister, Charlene. Charlene, darling. Charlene, darling. After the Andy Griffith Show, she did a few feature films, but most were small roles. We don't know just quite what she's doing these days. Now, remember, this was in 1983, 39 years ago. So at this point, they still hadn't even caught up with Maggie to find out how she was doing. Wow. Going on. And as for Ernest T. Bass, he was played by Howard Morris. Howard Morris himself. That's right. He was a regular on the Sid Caesar show. It's called Your Show of Shows. And he's portrayed all sorts of characters other than the cantankerous and yet hilarious Ernest T. Most recently, he was on Mary Tyler Moore's show as a regular performer. I didn't remember that. He is now in New York, where he has quite as successful as a producer and director of commercials. His most recent film role was in Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1. His feature film directing credits include Who's Minding the Mint? With 6, you get egg roll, and Don't Drink the Water. As writer, director, actor, and comedian, Morris has received platitudes for his work in all fields. Nowadays, he's specializing in directing TV commercials, where he has won Clio and Andy Awards. I didn't know there was an Andy Award, but it was awards for advertising, for his excellence in various advertising councils. You may have seen his handiwork in commercials for such giants as McDonald's, Jiffy Peanut Butter, Kmart, and the Kellogg Rice Krispies. And finally, we would be talking about Bob Denver. Now, Bob Denver is well known as Maynard G. Krebs and, of course, as Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. He once appeared as Charlene's husband, Dud, after the role was originated by Hoke Howell. He's still acting and just recently starred as a chemist in NBC's The Invisible Woman. And by the way, Alan Hell, who played the skipper on Gilligan, also played a Mayberry farmer, Jeff Pruitt, on one episode of the Andy Griffith Show. Hell can still be seen occasionally in guest spots on television. Mayberry's mountain folks keep on climbing. So that was the article that Ken Beck did for us back 39 years ago. Wow. So it was published in the e-bullet on March 18th, 1983. So there you go, folks. I just thought that was a lot of fun to go back and look at some of the history of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club itself. And we'll be trying to do some more of that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of fun. If you enjoy it, let me know. I would love to know that, so that I'm not boring you when I go through these neat stories that we find. But I just think that's, if you realize, the Rerun Watchers Club had not been around very long at that point, because it was started in 1979. So this is only about, 4 years, not quite even 4 years after it started, because the Rerun Watchers Club started in the fall of 1979. And this was in 1983. So it's just a few years later. And so they still hadn't made contact with all the cast members and really gotten to know them and everything. Jim hadn't been able to establish all that. So this is really fun to see that. So I hope you enjoyed that. And as long as we're talking about the Andy Griffith Show, I think it's time for us to play some Mayberry trivia. What y'all think? So let's get our music for Mayberry trivia going. All right. Are y'all ready? These are going to be fairly easy, I hope. Question number 1 is true or false, so it's obviously easy. Opie was an arithmetic whiz. True or false? Opie was a arithmetic whiz. True or false? True or false? Opie was an arithmetic whiz. Well, the answer is it's false. No, he wasn't a whiz in arithmetic. He had a hard time with it. Yeah, so he had a hard time. All right, question number 2. Who filmed commercials for Foster's Furniture Polish? Who filmed commercials for Foster's Furniture Polish? You have to know the name. Okay. Last chance here. Who filmed commercials for Foster's Furniture Polish? The answer is B. Taylor. Aunt B. Aunt B herself was the Foster's furniture polish lady. Okay, so Aunt B took Clara and who else to Mexico with her? Now, that is a color episode. Aunt B took Clara and who else to Mexico with her? Oh, this is pretty hard. Just remembering that name, it might be hard. Okay. Aunt B took Clara and who else to Mexico with her? Okay. All right. So this one might be kind of hard. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. You can pause if you don't want to hear it. But the answer is Myrtle. It was Myrtle that went with her. Yeah. Aunt B took Myrtle and Clara and they went to Mexico. All right. Here we go. Goober fell for what diner waitress? Goober fell for what diner waitress? Goober fell for her. Who was she? Okay. You don't know? All right. I'll give you some hints, okay? Or give you some options. Was it Juanita, Lydia, Terry, or Flora? So the answer is Goober fell for what diner waitress? The answer would be Flora. Flora is who he fell for. Yeah, good job. Chat room is getting it. All right. Number 5. It's another true or false question. You got a 50-50 chance. Barney threw away his chain ladder. Barney threw away a chain ladder. True or false? All right, so this is a true or false, 50-50, last read. Barney threw away a chain ladder. The answer is, that's true. Yeah, it was true. He threw it away. And then all that bad stuff started happening. Oh, that was so good. You didn't throw away that ladder, did you? Okay. All right, number 6. Number 6. Which deputy was a sleepwalker? Which deputy was a sleepwalker? Is that like an Ellie Walker? A sleepwalker? Which deputy was a sleepwalker? Yeah, that kind of comedy right there you can't get anywhere else. Was it an Ellie Walker? The answer is, which deputy was a sleepwalker? Is Warren. Warren was a sleepwalker. Remember he kept doing all that stuff when he was asleep? All right, number 7. Number 7. What did Aunt B lose in the garbage disposal? What did Aunt B lose in the garbage disposal? This is an interesting one. What did Aunt B lose in the garbage disposal? All right, so there we go. People in the chat room are getting it. It was a valuable jewelry pin. It was a brooch. A pin, a brooch. I'll give you a brooch too. That's what it was. Good job. All right, number 8. For the rights to make a movie about him, Andy received a check in the amount of, was it $5,000, $2,000, $1,000, or $10,000? For the rights to make a movie about him, Andy received a check in the amount of $5,000, $2,000, $1,000, or $10,000. Multiple choice. Which was it? So Andy, they were going to make a movie about Andy, and he got money for the rights to make the movie about him, and it was $1,000. $1,000 is the correct answer. Ding, 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 ding. All right, we got two more questions. All right, let's do this one here. Who unknowingly took a job with counterfeiters? Who unknowingly took a job with counterfeiters? Oh, that's a good one. Some of these are color. Folks have got to watch all the episodes. All right. Who unknowingly took a job with counterfeiters? The answer is Aunt B. Aunt B did. That's right. Folks in the chat room, good job. I'm looking at the chat room. If you'd like to be a part of our chat room, we record this podcast live on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to live.twochairsnowaiting.com and you can join us. And if you'd like to see the live show and you're not, don't have to get to come on Monday nights, if you want to see the live show, if you're one of my patrons at Patreon, you get to see the live show anytime you want to, because as soon as it's published, you can watch it from then on, if that's what you'd like to do. So I want to thank all of my patrons over at Patreon for helping just keep the podcast going. And if you'd like to be a part of that, I'd be grateful. That'd be awesome. All right. Last question, number 10. All right. This is a fill in the blank question. Barney is not superstitious. He's just blank. Fill in the blank. Barney's not superstitious. He's just blank. I feel like I'm playing match game now. Barney's not superstitious. He's just blank. The answer is, filling in that blank, it's caution. 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 I'm just cautious. I'm cautious. So he's just cautious. All right. So how did you do, guys? That was pretty fun. I thought those are pretty good questions for everybody to be able to play around and see how they could do. So good job to everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. All right. So now we're going to head over, pat yourself on the back if you did and got, 6 or 10 right. Anything above 6 is good. Anything below 6, not as good. I would say a 6, 7, or 8 would probably be a decent score. 9 and 10, you did really well. And anything below that, you're going to have to watch more. Got to watch more episodes. Okay. So let's go in here from our buddy SpiritWalker with Returning to Mayberry.
Won't you turn on the Andy Griffith Show? Forget all your cares and woes. Sit back, relax, and laugh with friendly folks you know. Take up your fishing pole.
Welcome to Returning to Mayberry with special correspondent SpiritWalker from the Andy Griffith Show Esquire Club.
Thanks, Randy. Hello, Mayberry Spirit Watchers. Welcome to the Esquire Club, where we are conducting an experiment where we take something from Mayberry, we take it outside of Mayberry, connect it to something else, and continue the connections around until something returns to Mayberry. Then we take that thing that returned to Mayberry, we connect it to something else in Mayberry, and continue the cycle ad infinitum. It's been a lot of fun to do these segments, but I must tell you that in this segment, I am diving deeper into history than I've ever gone before. I found out that connecting to anything in history from Mayberry within 6 degrees is fairly easy. It's connecting to something and then returning to Mayberry all within that 6 degrees. This segment was a challenge. But I did it. So in the end, it was rewarding. When I set out in this quest, I didn't know if it could be done. But it was done. So let's start with the last thing that returned to Mayberry, and that is Ronnie Howard as Opie Taylor. We'll start with him and start our journey back in time. Ronald William Howard was born into a show business family in 1954. His father, Rance, and his mother, Jean, were both actors. So it was only natural that young Ronnie appeared in his first movie in the arms of his mother. The movie was Pioneer Woman, released in 1959. At the age of 5, Ronnie was cast as Opie Taylor in a backdoor pilot for a new series. The pilot would air on an episode of The Danny Thomas Show. Young Ronnie was a smash, and the series was picked up by a sponsor as soon as it aired. Ronnie had just turned 6 when the first episode of The Andy Griffith Show aired. We watched him grow into a teen on that show and later in his second successful series, Happy Days. Now Ron is one of the most successful directors in Hollywood with 9 Academy Awards. In the 20th episode of Season 6, Wyatt Earp Rides Again, Opie is enamored with a Wild West show that has come to Mayberry. The show features a man who is billed as the grandnephew of Wyatt Earp, who goes by the name of Clarence Earp. Clarence Earp was played by Richard Jury. Not much is known about Jury, except that he was born in 1926, and before the Andy Griffith Show, he appeared in a lot of popular television series like The Munsters, McHale's Navy, The Untouchables, and Gunsmoke. While appearing in the Far Places episode of Gunsmoke, Jury had the pleasure of working with a veteran actor, Milburn Stone, who played Doc Adams. Now right there, I could return to Mayberry because Orville Sherman was also in that episode of Gunsmoke, and he was in 3 episodes of The Andy Griffith Show. But I have to go deeper in time than 1926. Milburn Stone had begun his acting career in 1935, and in 1938 he appeared in the movie Port of Missing Girls as Jim Benton. Also appearing in that movie was another veteran actor who began his career in 1910. His name was Harry Carey. Now, Harry Carey was born in 1878, but I really want to go back farther than even that. Now, in some of Harry Carey's earliest westerns, and some of them were silent pictures, there was a visitor to the set who came as an unpaid consultant. And he was more famous than any of the actors that were in those pictures back then. This man was arguably the greatest, most famous lawman of the actual Old West. He helped to tame Kansas cattle towns like Wichita and Dodge City. He was a contemporary with Wild Bill Hickok and Doc Holliday, but he became world famous because of a certain gunfight in Tombstone, Arizona. That's right. He was involved in the famous gunfight on Fremont Street. Okay, you may know it as the gunfight at the OK Corral. His name was Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp was born in 1848 and lived to the age of 80. I connected Clarence Earp to his great uncle, Wyatt Earp. It's time to celebrate with some delicious Virgil's Vanilla Cream Pop. Wait, I have to get back to Mayberry. Wyatt Earp was a regular advisor on the set of one of the most famous directors of his day, John Ford. Ford directed a lot of movies starring John Wayne, including The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance in 1962. It was a star-studded movie. Besides Wayne, the movie starred Jimmy Stewart, Lee Marvin, Lee Van Cleef, John Carradine, and Andy Devine. And I have a choice of 3 Mayberry citizens to choose from in that movie. They include Denver Pyle, who played Briscoe Darling, and Willis Boucher, who played Charlie O'Malley, among others. But the one I have chosen to return to Mayberry on is John Quaylen, who played the Jinx, Henry Bennett, in Season 2. So the circle is complete. From Ron Howard to Richard Jury in Mayberry, from Jury to Milburn Stone, from Stone to Harry Carey, from Carey to Wyatt Earp, from Earp to John Ford, from Ford to John Quaylen, and back to Mayberry as Henry Bennett. So there you have it. From hijinks to the jinx. Everything returns to Mayberry. Hey, drop me a line at the Andy Griffith Show Esquire Club with your suggestion for links in the future. Until then, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And keep spreading that Mayberry spirit. I thank you. It's time to celebrate with some wonderful Virgils. Pop. So let's have a bottle of pop and go watch the Andy Griffith Show. Virgil! It's so fine to spend some time with all these dear old friends of mine. Have a bottle of pop. Come on, let's watch the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, wow. Great job. That was so fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. That was amazing that you were able to tie all those things together. I mean, I just don't see how you do it. So, folks, if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the fun stuff that SpiritWalker is doing, I want you to head over to his website. It's a Facebook site really for him. That I want you to head over to, and I know you're going to enjoy it. It's the Esquire Club, so it's TAGS Esquire Club, if you can spell that. So it's the Andy Griffith Show Esquire Club, TAGS Esquire Club on Facebook, and just tell him how much you're enjoying these. These are a lot of fun for me. I laughed out the in part of it. You probably heard me start laughing when he's talking about Wyatt Earp and Clarence Earp. What a great job. I mean, that is hard to me, that's hard to do what he's doing. So I am really enjoying these, and thanks for doing these, SpiritWalker. Great job. So, folks, that's, if you were watching the video, he was actually drinking Virgil soda of some kind. I've never seen that before. So I'm going to have to find out. I'm not sure what that would taste like if Virgil made it. I guess if nobody was watching him when they were making it, maybe it'd be okay. I'm not sure. but somebody in the chat room said, I thought it might be a beer. This is not, nope, no Otis's here. We're not doing that. So that's good. So great job. Great job on that. I really enjoyed it. So folks, I hope you had a good time. Now I hope you learned some things. Hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed going back in history a little bit and hearing from the e-bullet from 39 years ago and playing a little trivia. We just did all kinds of stuff. I want to invite you. We're going to be over in Granville, Tennessee on April the 9th, doing a Mayberry I Love Lucy day. It's on that Friday. That Saturday. And then on that Friday night at 5 or 5:30, I can't remember, 5, I think, they're going to have a dinner theater on both Friday and Saturday nights. So if you're going to be in the area, maybe you can try to get information about that. Those are some events that are coming up. You can go to granvilletn.com, I think is where it is where the actual website is for Granville, Tennessee. And find out the information there. Yeah, it's granvilletn.com, and get information there about what we're going to be doing. And that's definitely something you might want to look at. There's several other events coming up in the next month or so. So go and check the event calendar at imayberry.com for information. And you can join in and see some of these fun folks and not miss out on any of the Mayberry fun that's going on, because it's good, clean, family fun, and you'll leave smiling, I do believe. So definitely take a chance and make a trip and go to one of these events, because I think you'll really enjoy them. So that's all I've got for you this week. We'll give you some more information next week about some of the events and stuff, but go and check out the event calendar at imayberry.com, and it'll give you all the information about all the stuff that's coming up. So folks, that is all I've got. I just want to thank you for showing up and being here for our 676th episode. Wow. It's hard to believe. But I would like to hear from you. You guys get to hear from me every week, but I'd love to hear from you. You can give me a call at 888-684-8415, or you can email me at floyd@imayberry.com. I'd love to hear from you. It's always great. So folks, until next time, have a great Mayberry week, and we'll see you right here on Two Chairs. Good night, everybody.